We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. 2 trials left. These are pretty small, so hopefully I'll get through this rather fast, relatively, and complete with a 13th video on the entire synopsis here. So this is Calypso, or Calypso, a trial of internal comfort, the temptation of immortality. So it's basically a trial between immortality and eternity. Immortality versus eternity. The difference between being immortal, having it all, and being immortal on the physical plane, or being eternal in the ethereal plane. Basically what happens here is that after Zeus destroys his ship, he washes up to the island of Calypso, or Calypso. She finds him, falls deeply in love with him, and pretty much gives him everything. It's like you have immortality, eternal youth, endless pleasure, a paradise, no hunger. You don't need to do anything. It's like the perfect, she's a nymph, I think. It's like the perfect, final temptation, let's just say. Once we have reached that point, I would argue darkness or temptation is going to throw at us the biggest curveball that it can. And that's the point where you realize how much you have actually come along or you haven't. Because believe it or not, a lot of souls at that point will be like, you know what? I've been through so much. I'm just going to stay here and enjoy this. That's the final trial of comfort. When you go into Satanism, in Christianity, and you look into in that perspective of the belief, I don't want to force any beliefs or anything like that here. I'm just juxtaposing and comparing different kind of ends of the spectrum here. It's where Satan is like, I'll give you everything. And the higher you go, the more refined your soul is, the more it's going to give you. The more he's going to be like, you know what? To convince you, he's going to have to give you more. Because if you've already surpassed the mundane and the simple things, it's not going to, come to you and tell you, hey, I'm going to stop you from going home with a great feast. You're like, who cares? I'm still going home. So you have to give that final test there is not succumbing to the final temptations of just comfort. Full circle round with the beginning again. It's like a final test, a final trial. It's like, let's have a look now. You've done it all, you're tired, you're spent, you've gone through your entire journey, you've lost your entire crew, you have no energy left to go forward anymore. Here's an olive branch, but is it? You're not going to go home, so you're not going to return to the light, you're not going to be part with your soul, you're not going to transcend, you're not going to meet your family, your child, your wife, whatever the case may be symbolically and literally. But you're going to have everything right here. You're going to be immortal, you're going to have pleasures. It is the final temptation. He spends his days miserable, he's crying on the beach, and he's longing for home. His true life, he's longing for Penelope, his soul. Because by this point, he has gone through the trials, and he has proved that, you know what, I lost everything, and I done all these trials, I found myself, I am able to remain true to my target, and I'm going to go home. In the story, eventually, the gods via Hermes, they order Calypso to release him. She obeys, and she helps him build a raft and sends him on his way with provisions and clothing. She offers the ego everything that it could possibly ever want at this point. Divine love, eternal youth, escape from the hard journey home, all those things. It's not just a trial about, the sexual temptation. It's about whether the soul will choose comfortable oblivion and abandon its true purpose and destiny for an easy paradise. A false paradise. A fake paradise. It's not the true paradise. And I would argue that once you have transcended to that level, which only one person on that level could actually experience that and understand what true paradise really feels like. And it feels a lot more bliss and a lot more eternal and a lot more immortal and a lot more, beyond the blissness of all these fake paradises and the easy paradise. It's much more fulfilling and satisfying than all those. But unless someone has actually experienced or understand this or elevated themselves to the conscious level of understanding or experiencing this to some degree, which I would argue comes a little bit back to the underworld experience as well, and Calypso. Again, those were the turning points where a lot of his actions after that are a lot more, steady, as you notice. And he knows what he has to do and where he has to go. I would argue that once you understand and once you have the experience that the actual paradise is much more fulfilling than this, then you'd be longing for the actual thing, for the real thing, rather than a shadow of it. And it really shows that it's his final trial at this point, where it's like, he doesn't waver, he doesn't falter, and he loses 7 years there. He's captive, and despite that, again, a very symbolical number, 7. 7 is the evolutionary number, every 7 years, the energies in the body change and so on and so forth. It's like a step of evolution. So he goes through that phase as well, and it's kind of like a closing circle of his past life, and also like a seal of approval, let's just say, that it's not just a momentary lapse that, I want to go home, but he shows through the entire phase that he is true to his bearing and where he wants to go. In other metaphysical beliefs, some would say that if you meditate for 7 years extensively, that you would unlock higher consciousness. Take that with a grain of salt in terms of how it could be related to this, symbolism here. He has an unbreakable pull towards his authentic self, his family, and his rightful place in the world. It's the soul consciously choosing the difficult but meaningful path over seductive eternal comfort. And ultimately, I would argue it's also choosing, once you transcend, you are going to have the easy and eternal comfort, which is again, as the blind prophet told Odysseus, you're going to go into the shore, bury the ore, and then you're going to have a peaceful life, to the end of your days and grow old. So it's not in vain, all of this. That's what it's. That's something that I also need to drive home, also as a whole, kind of like symbolism, you might say. But I guess the way that the story mostly represents it is that it's a hard journey to get back home, but the bliss of the home in the end is something that's truly yours. And just to bring it home, that's really what it is. It's eternity versus immortality. It's the comfort of being in the material plane, and it's like, I'll give you everything and you can be here forever. It's the last attempt to stop the soul from returning to the light. It's the last thing. Let's just throw everything at you here now. I'll give you everything. You'll have immortality. No worries, nothing. It's I'll make you a god. And most people in that case would say, sure. So that is the difference here as well. That comfort is you're enjoying the comforts of the material world, immortality, and you're missing out on the comforts ultimately of the eternal and the ethereal world, the comforts of the spiritual world, thus eternity. And in a lot of also, again, traditions, it's when we let go of our material self, when we're able to transcend to the spiritual self. So I guess this is the final act. This is before the actual final act, when he goes home, which is a more esoteric kind of like confrontation of his final, alignment and rejoining. It's like that moment of that final battle. This is with regards to his journey and with regards to what he learns through his life. This is the final lesson, let's just say. I think it was a simpler one, a little bit shorter, and hopefully the next one, the final, it's not really a trial, but it's kind of a trial. It's like the completion at that point. Hopefully that one's going to be a little bit short as well, and then I'm going to head into the final video where I'm just going to do a quick through line and show how all of these things connect ultimately. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little bit of a shorter one. It was a simpler one, I think, but also probably the most resonating. Aside from the 10th one, which was probably the most complicated to try to explain, number 11 is kind of like the simpler one. It's kind of a little bit more obvious, I would argue, even in its own symbolism. As I've been saying in several videos, it's not rocket science. There is a lot of symbolism here that is very straightforward, like right in your face. It just tells you right away, like Scylla and Charybdis. You know, it's like the sacrifice of two, you know, lesser evils. You choose the lesser evil and being able to man up and, you know, go through with that decision and choice. It's a pretty simple one, so it's very easy to explain. Some of these are a little bit more difficult, but even the difficult ones, like number 10, at the end of the previous video, trial 10, I do give it a pretty much, you know, simpler synopsis that pretty much covers it, and you could say that, yeah, it makes sense again in a logical kind of simple symbolism. But it's just that it was a little bit more difficult for me because my synapses are firing with 100 other things simultaneously as I'm looking at that trial, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to steer into that, I don't want to steer into that, I don't want to talk about that. It's way too many things just like, you know, that just jumped on my head. That's why it was a little bit more difficult for me. You know, it was like if I was going to just succumb into explaining every single one of those kind of like symbolisms that were being fired up in that point, I probably would have made it like a 1 hour, 1.5 hour video, and I would have lost you. I would have lost you, and I would have lost myself in that whole process as well. So I tried to keep it as simple as I possibly could. This one here, one of the simpler ones. Again, we are now reaching home. We're slowly got the final steps. Things are starting to calm down a little bit, and we're able to chill out a little bit more until we finally reach the final trial in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, peace be with you.